Hi everyone, Jack Harlow here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Charlotte Adigéry and Bolis Pupul record, Topical Dancer. This is a new collaboration between two artists who hail from Belgium, and I am just now learning about them and their work through this new record here. They have actually been recording and producing tracks together for a while now. In many ways, the quirky and vintage electropop that you hear here, the groundwork was laid for it on Charlotte's 2019 EP, which was also produced by Bolis. And I'm just falling more and more in love with their sound and their ideas and their style the more I listen to this record. Because Topical Dancer is a record that has a lot going for it, that works in layers. There's loads of clean and crisp production on this thing, not to mention all the captivating dance grooves. Tastefully minimal beats that pull from a lot of old school strains of very European techno and electro disco, EBM, and synthpop. Lots of sharp and funny social commentary, the topics of which vary from track to track. All of which is carried very well by Charlotte's heartening lyrics, her wit, her humor, her personality. It's a record that feels indebted to the now, as well as our frequent collaborators on the project Soulwax, but also a time in music when artists like Kraftwerk, as well as Laurie Anderson and David Byrne, were expanding the popular music canon. There's something so sweet and innocent and endearingly well-meaning about this record too. Take the song Hey, for example, whose very lovely vocal harmonies and easygoing beats weave together effectively with Charlotte's lyrics about racial and sexual and spiritual equality. Stylistically and aesthetically, the whole thing feels like a musical PSA from a 1980s episode of Sesame Street, if you could apply to it some of the equity politics that are popular online today. And I draw that comparison in the best way possible, because operating from such a fresh and unsullied place, especially as an adult who is well aware of the horrors of the world, is really difficult. Because every year it feels like more and more people mentally succumb to the disease of cynicism. And if there's a real point of rebellion on Topical Dancer, and there are many, it's that. Because this record socially has so few inhibitions, and I love it for that. And of course the music itself on this project too is catchy, fun, flavorful. There's the song Esperanto, which features a lot of primal dance grooves, setting the stage for Charlotte's lyrics about all of the toxic social binaries that have arisen in the information age. Are you polite or political, correct or cynical? Which I think is a serious question to ponder. Charlotte also lightens up the vibe of the track a little bit toward the end with a series of tongue-in-cheek recommendations that seemingly are an effort to tell the listener how to avoid microaggressions and stuff like that, but the stuff that is being told to the listener, telling them stuff like not ordering a black Americano, as a coffee, instead say, I'll have an African American, please. Or don't say only a man is fit for this job, say instead, oh, well, at least you tried, Karen. Just to let you guys know the level of humor this record is operating on. The song Blenda following this picks up the groove a little bit with a higher tempo and a sick synth bass line. The track is essentially a very smart piece of commentary on being a person who ancestrally is from a different land, a different culture, but the country they're living in now doesn't identify them as being a part of the community they exist in. I also love the way she poses so cluelessly in a hilarious way to Siri the question of where do I belong and how long is the road there? The group vocal breakdown in French on the track is spectacular too, with all the hand drums. Later in the track list, It Hit Me is one of the most interesting explorations of sexuality I've heard on any LP, really coming to terms with your sexuality and sexual attraction at a very young age, with Charlotte describing with pitched vocals to make it sound like she is much younger, telling a story where she's 13, there are wolf whistles in the background in the mix, describing a group of guys ogling her, and not really knowing why. There is a naivete to her story, but then of course there is the point where she says, and then it hit me. She doesn't quite explicitly say what it is, but then immediately after that realization is met, the track busts into this chaotic, noisy, distorted passage of really aggressive techno beats. Bolis then backs up this theme with his own story, and there's a third act where Charlotte first tries to flirt with somebody and fails hilariously. I won't spoil the whole thing, but just know, in my opinion, I think it's a very smart track. The song MWEN is pure Kraftwerk, Worship, and some of the best I've heard in a long time, frankly. From the vocal melodies to the chorus effects and very simple minimal beats, this track somehow recaptures the classic German group's mid-70s magic with a bit of extra lushness too. Reappropriate is another sharp piece of commentary on the record about Charlotte really kind of owning her femininity, sexuality, womanhood. It is one of the lengthier cuts here, not the longest, but it does feel like the longest due to an overall lack of development on the production side, on the songwriting side. I do think Charlotte's words on the track are thoughtful though. And the intro to the song is pretty strong as well, the way her vocals tie in with all these bubbly synth arpeggios, hitting occasionally some nasally falsetto type highs that feel very Thom Yorke-esque. Things pick up on the following This Is Not a Cliche, which of course lyrically is in fact very cliche. It's one of my favorite cuts here and starts off sounding so thin and so awkward with its dry beats and thin little guitar loops. The way Charlotte's vocals feel so stiff, it's like I'm hearing a demo or something, but once that chorus drops, "You're cold as ice," and like that rush of techno beats fly in, damn. I just was not prepared for that. Or maybe that is in fact the point, because the song feels so unassuming at first and then goes all in. Like it just hits from beginning to end, even with all of the very well-traveled lyrical and dance cliches consciously strewn about the song. For as pretty as some of the vocal work is on Chwil Smis, I think this one could have used a bit more development too. But Mantra is another one of my favorite cuts here, a really surreal inner monologue about being in your own head, but then giving yourself permission to let go of all of that with this amazing chorus. Now let go of this mental interpretation. You exist with or without it. Thank the fears and say goodbye. Let it go. Your body knows what to do. Which I know I didn't say it in a very catchy way there. It does hit a lot harder within the track itself. But yeah, it's motivational, it's instructional, it's inspirational. It's really a don't overthink everything anthem. Making Sense Stop is very David Byrne-esque, and I don't draw that comparison merely because of the title. Charlotte and Bolis obviously come to their own sonic conclusions within their own track here, but still, like there's a lot of overlap here creatively between this and the output of Talking Heads when you're talking about the grooves, the guitar work, the approach to the whole track lyrically, the eeriness of it. Just overall another great track with creative production, wearing its influences on its sleeve very well. Choruses are enchanting. Some of the glitchy vocal manipulations across the track are great too. I'm just pouring over this record. I will do that as well with the song Ha Ha, which is a bit of a groovy breather moment on the thing. It's not as thematic lyrically as many other songs here, but it does feature some chill EBM style beats and a lot of repeated samples of Charlotte laughing, which are synced up with the rhythms really well. It's a cool little odyssey that brings us to the closing track, Thank You, which of course an album this wordy and this thematic is going to give us a clever little send-off. And much of the song is spent sarcastically responding to either backhanded compliments, insulting or unnecessary opinions. And for 6 entire minutes, it undergoes some of the most visceral and enthralling progressions on the production side of any song here. Like really one of the better and dancier cuts on the LP. And yeah, I mean, really kind of a statement of intent in a lot of ways in terms of Charlotte's and Bolis's attitude toward their own music and how it's perceived in the world. Though I don't know if we needed extra confirmation that they don't give a fuck. What anybody else thinks, because I think every other song and moment up until this point has pretty much made that clear. So look, I'm loving this record. I'm loving the songs, loving the performances, loving the sound play, loving the mix of influences, loving the attitude, loving the themes, the commentary, the storytelling. It's just a great record all around. It's a little all over the place. Yeah, a lot of eras and influences and sounds coming together on one LP, which maybe at one point historically were very separate, not necessarily a whole lot of crossover, but I think that's kind of the beauty, one of the many beauties of this album, which I think is very good, very special, and absolutely worth your time. I'm feeling a strong 8 on this one. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Topical Dancer, forever.